Redcoats, Bluecoats, Pirates, Privateers, and the Birth of a Nation. Welcome back, my friends. If you are interested in some themed reading for this 4th of July, stay tuned. I have some really great recommendations for you. Alright, welcome back. My name's Emilee Harris, and I write steamy historical romances. But today, I am focusing on the fact that I also read steamy historical romances, and less than steamy historical romances. And I wanted to share with you some great books I found last year, around about this time, because I realized when I set out to read a themed month of books, the American Revolution is really a pretty difficult time period to find books for. I found plenty of books dealing with the Georgian era, the late 1700s, but all of them usually take place in Great Britain, England mostly, and really didn't focus on what I wanted to focus on, which was the American 4th of July holiday. So I scrounged and tried to find some books that would fit to this theme. And I had a pretty rough time. Of the books I found, the focus was generally on pirates. It was on the British side of things, meaning usually British sea captains. And there was very little that I could find that actually took place in America, the young America, in the colonies, and actually on land in the war. But eventually I did pick a few titles and I really enjoyed them, so I'm sharing those with you today. And yes, I am cheating. I am looking at the blog post that I wrote last year, and I will have that linked below for you if you want to go and check out the full review of each of these books. Alright, so first up I'm going to start with The Rebel Pirate. This was a fun one. The Rebel Pirate by Donna Thorland. This one is part of a Revolutionary War series, one of the very few I could find, and I really enjoyed it. Therefore, I plan on reading more in this series. On the eve of war between the British Crown and its colonies, a disgraced buccaneer's daughter and the British naval officer she's taken hostage must decide which side they're on and whether or not they can overcome their pasts to find love. This was a great action-adventure romance. I loved the backstory of the buccaneer, the pirate. That was really fun. It was just backstory, so it didn't play massively in, although it's important for our female lead. But this was a fun book. It had a lot of good action in it and very fun characters. So that would be my top pick for Revolutionary War era. Next up we have Heart of the Sea Wolf by Danielle Harmon. And this one I actually really enjoyed also, and it incorporated, I think, more of the actual American Revolution fighting portion of things, because, well, here, let me read it to you. A noble sea captain lives in the shadow of his pirate ancestor, there we get the pirates again, in Revolutionary War America, and must fight for his life and love. Then you have a woman living a double life, one whose secrets could get her killed if they ever get out. Can she trust the dark stranger who offers the only chance to escape? This one was interesting, and I don't want to give away her dark secret. It becomes pretty apparent, I think, through the course of the book, but one thing I liked and didn't like was, again, it focuses on the British aspect, which is hard not to do, I think, in this era because Americans were still British at this point. But it goes into more of the American sentiment and the colonials, why they're fighting, that it was very much, we have to hide any disapproving thoughts or movements or actions. The sea captain is British and he winds up basically in the wrong place at the wrong time, and therefore he has to get out of danger. And the woman, although she is American, she still has her own reasons for potentially being in danger. So they have to keep that in mind as they go through all of the action points in this story. And you do have things like cities being ransacked, you have the British taking over, and then you have talking about actual battles. You don't actually go into them, but you are connected to them. It's really much more, it gives a much more visual sense of the Revolutionary War than, say, the previous book did. So this is also a very good one. And from here I am going to go first to Once a Rebel. This one is by Mary Jo Putney, and I absolutely adored this book, but it is toward the bottom of my list because it is not actually a Revolutionary War era book. It takes place during the War of 1812. So it is in many regards very similar in terms of who's fighting who and a little bit of mindset, because the United States or America was still very young at the time, but technically it did not fall into the correct era for me, but I didn't know that until I started reading the book. I blame the advertising for this book. If you go on Amazon, look at the description, nowhere in there does it say anything about the War of 1812. It's talking about rebels, it's talking about British versus American, it's talking about all the keywords for Revolutionary War, but it's not. So that was my big issue with this book. Now, as a book and as a story, I loved it. And here's what happened in it. Exiled by British aristocracy, again, we're focusing on the British, not the American. Reunited in the powder keg of revolutionary America, will two fated lovers find the strength to stand against the society that rejected them, or will the spark of their love set off a catastrophic explosion? So this was interesting. It brings in other colonial aspects, like a plantation in the Caribbean, if I remember correctly. And the man in this case, he gets sent off to sea, and they end up serendipitously reuniting in America, of all places. Both of them were British. And through all of the events taking place during this war, there comes a question of where do they go next, which is similar to, I want to say, I can't remember. One of the other two had the same thing of where do we go next, where do we call home? If I remember, I will put some sort of a note on the screen for you. But if you like that kind of juxtaposition of which side do I root for, there are a couple of good options in this list. Alright, and my last one is Rebel Heart by Clara Winter. And I absolutely adore Clara Winter. This book would have come farther up on the list just because I love this author. The only reason I put it to last is because it has a paranormal aspect, which you may or may not enjoy if you're a historical reader. I do. I like paranormal, I like historical, I like it all. Action, adventure, American Revolution. This one is definitely set in the right time. It is definitely set in America, in the trenches, on the land. This one met the most of my requirements, actually. let me read to you what I have here, and then we will go right back to what I was going to say. So, apparently, the British lost the war even with vampires on their side. As my kid brother would say, America. This tale is unique, and it is one of a daring woman spy and the immortal Hessian officer who falls in love with her and definitely sparks some fireworks. It spans into contemporary, so it's historical for the most part, but because one of our characters is immortal, and then it does kind of carry over into a portion of modern day so that we can round out the story and find out how things went. Vampires aside, this was a really good option for a revolutionary read. Again, you have images of the encampments for the soldiers. It brings in, I really love that it brings in the Hessians. This is one thing that I think is very important to American history, talking about the beginning of our nation, that very often gets overlooked. But Americans had help from other countries, from the French, from the Germans. Our early troops were trained by a Prussian general. We had help from thousands of German soldiers, Hessians mostly, that were loaned to us. And no, they were not mercenaries. They were on loan. And many of them ended up staying in the United States after the war. I keep calling it the United States. I don't think we were quite united yet. But they stayed and are one of the reasons that early America and America in general had a big German population. And why German lost out as the official American language by 1 vote. Yes, you can tell my family is German. I'm proud of this. But this was a really fun read. So if you enjoy the paranormal, you will enjoy this book if you like this era. If vampires are not your thing, maybe test it out anyway, because it does have a lot of interesting scenery, I guess, verbal scenery, talking about early America, which I really enjoyed. All right, and that is it. That is my list of Revolutionary War era reads. If you would like to see my full rundown of each of these books, I will link the main post down below, plus each individual book review. They're all linked together, but I will give you the option of whichever you want to look at. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this list. Let me know if you have read any of these and what you think. Even better, if you know of any other true American Revolution era romances, please let me know, because it was so hard to find them for this list. Alright, and that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please do take a moment to like and subscribe so you can get additional recommendations when I have them. Also, if you enjoy these book reviews, please take a look at my additional videos. I believe I only have one at the moment, but the list is growing, and I will link that in all appropriate places as well. Until next time, happy reading and have a wonderful holiday.